This is Jens Bunnell here at DoorDaCon 6 on the X-Band podcast. We're here with Clinton Ehrlich with Quadtiva, the Chief Marketing Officer at Quadtiva. We're so excited to have him on the podcast today. A master at marketing and branding. Had an opportunity to hang out with Clinton at conferences and in Costa Rica.
Yeah, we're just in Costa Rica.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. But I'm so excited to learn from you. So I just to kick it off, give us an idea of maybe your key elements, because branding is so huge in the door-to-door space, right? Give us your key elements of really embracing and building your brand.
Yeah, we actually, we just did an overhaul, a rebrand within the last 6 months. And, as the person who basically has to go back to the rest of the executive team and to our board and everybody else and say, hey, I want to go spend a whole bunch of money doing this, I've got to have...
It's tough as a startup.
Yeah, right? Yeah, as a startup, it's very important. And so... When we go do that, though, I think the main and most important thing is to really understand the foundation of what you stand for. When you're building a brand, it's not just what it looks like. There way more goes into what you stand for, what your core values are, what you're trying and who you're trying to influence. Obviously, if you're targeting one type of person, you're going to design things to look a certain way, and if you're targeting a different type of person, I can't go out and do like a bunch of neon stuff and like you're going to go to like the EDC festival or something. It might come across a little weird. So a lot of energy goes into really understanding who our core audience is, who we're specifically targeting. And we really want to understand that because that all goes into who we are, who we stand for, what we stand for, and what we're trying to accomplish with it. All of that is what goes into building out what our logo is going to look like. So we actually did a complete logo overhaul, which is also a really difficult thing to do when the CEO and co-founder of the company is the one who created it, and so you're almost going, hey, your baby's really not that cute.
Yeah. Which no parent wants to hear.
No parent wants to hear. And that really wasn't the issue. It was just, we wanted to do something unique and fresh and really take the time to go build it out. And so put together a plan, met with a whole bunch of different agencies that we thought would really hit the targets that we were trying to hit, narrowed it down to a really incredible agency. And then the work began. And so the first part of this really was just lots of questions and investigation into, who we are, and then also what we wanted to try to do with it. So when someone sees our brand, like there's all sorts of like these little hidden messages that are in there that we did in order to try to make it make sense for us. Cool. And then you own it, and then you go out into the world. And so the first part really is that foundation. It's understanding your core identity. And then we went in and started looking at the visuals that connected to that. And so you go through this process. It takes months. Yeah. If you're really going to do it right, it takes months to do. And there's lots of iterations. And so, yeah, that's the biggest and most important thing for me, for any company looking to go do this, is take the time to build the foundation. Because without that, it is very difficult. You're just looking at a cool picture or an image or something, and there's no real meaning behind it. So that was the first thing that we did.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense, because if you don't have meaning behind something, a lot of times you'll get a lot of turnover with your look and your brand and the feel of it. So often there's a focus on the outward appearance of a company and how people perceive a company, right, and that brand. How did you get buy-in from not only the people that created the original look, the original brand of like the CEO, the co-founders, but also within your company? How do you get your people to buy into your core values and your brand itself?
We have a pretty incredible culture. You've spent some time with a lot of us. And I think that's probably one of the most important and most powerful things about the Quadtiva is our culture, is the people that we find and that we attract. And so, there's a lot of trust that's put onto me and to my team to go actually do this. But there's a lot of pushback. And there was a lot of pushback. We did we landed on 3 versions that we said to the agency, hey, go do these and let's see what that comes back. And then you test it and you see what it looks like at a booth. You see what it looks like on a website, and you start to see what it looks like on swag and other things and designs that you're going to do. And so then you have to go back and present it. And it's the most nerve-wracking thing to have to do, but because we are all kind of remote. We all got onto a Zoom.
Yeah.
And so I'm on with the rest of the executive team first and going, all right, so here, you know, and like, of course,
all this money
there's all this money and I've got a favorite.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't do that. You really have to have the collective information back. And then it's my job to really not only show them the visuals. I mean, first we built the foundation. That was the first thing that we did. Everybody bought in on that. And so once we did that and we started working on the visual part of it, then we started to present that. And so it's literally, it isn't about necessarily getting buy-in first. It's getting feedback first. Taking that feedback, you know, I mean literally like little angles on a design where people were like, I think it's too sharp. I think it's too soft. And it's just like, but does it feel like our brand? Right. And so people are very critical, and you take all this feedback, you make notes. And then once you narrow it down, you know, to get buy-in, it was like, tell me why you like or don't like something. And, you know, you get, well, I don't like the color. Okay, well, why don't you like the color? Because we actually do a color study.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, the process of doing this, it's not working with a designer and come up with a concept.
Right.
We actually looked at what all the colors are in our space. We looked at what the colors are in technology. So solar we're looking at what a lot of bigger brands do. So for example, you got like a sales rabbit, right? Like, you know that they're like red and black.
Yeah.
I saw Solo's booth, you know, they're like that off shade of blue and like a grayish color, right?
Yeah.
So you recognize these things, and we don't realize it when we're just walking around, but like, you know, and identify with who these companies are, right?
Yeah.
So we actually did color studies to look at what the solar space looks like, what technology looks like. We looked at organizations, you know, like a bank. And if you think about the colors that banks use, it's to try to build trust. And so there's all these things go into
like
this.
Subliminal messaging.
Yeah, well, there's, I mean, there's both subliminal and very like in your face. Yeah. There's a, one of my favorite books is an author named Martin Lindstrom. And he has a book called Biology. And it's like the why people buy. And it talks about like all the.
Sounds like a good book for a marketer.
It is a very good book for a marketer. But his whole thing is studying the neuroscience behind why people make decisions. Cool. And so I look at a lot of brand and things that we design. There's always a reason behind it. It's not because I like the color of it or I think it's pretty or whatever. Cool. You want those things too, but it really starts with the intention behind it. And I think that all really great branding, there is an intention behind it. People may not recognize it right off the bat, but eventually they'll find out, oh, wow, that's a real cool. I mean, I'm looking right now behind you at the Door to Door Con logo, and it's great, you know. And I love, you know, he's got like the infinite thing on there and the rooftop, and so, you know, there was probably a lot of intention behind what they did when they were creating it, and so we do the same thing. So getting buy-in is getting feedback first.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. It's really cool to see the insight of how much buildup it takes. I feel like a lot of companies in the door-to-door space, we're in an industry where there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of people branching off and making companies. And when it comes to marketing, I resonate with that of seeing a lot of companies like that looks cool, but like there's not a lot of substance behind it. Yeah. So creating that substance, you know, obviously it takes so much over and over, just going through, getting all this insight from whether it's outside agency or inside people. So once you've built that brand with your company and you're starting to launch it, what are your key indicators of, okay, this brand is sticking, this brand is actually, you know, doing what we want it to do, or maybe the opposite, right? How do you kind of get to that point? And how soon do you like, okay, we need to pivot a little? How long do you give it?
So before you get there, which you may never get there, you have to be comfortable and believe as a company. You asked me before about getting buy-in.
Yeah.
Once we got all the feedback and we really said, okay, this is the lane we're going to go down, that's when all the real development happens. And that's when, you know, you present it back to the team and say, this is what we are doing. And like, after this point, own it. And so as a brand, you have to get to this point where this is what we want to do. I don't really care what anybody else says. And when you get to that point, that's when you know, like, okay, well, this is us. And so there is no pivot after that. There may be pivots way down the road. Maybe you feel like something got stale. When we just did this rebrand, I think we finished, around October. The first time really seeing it was at RoofCon, and then we did some events in Costa Rica. We had the branding there, and you've seen it on social now. But the first step was not to create designs. It was things like what's on my shirt, where it's just our mark and it's just the name Quativa. Because I want people to really understand that, not only are we visually different and our logo is different, but so everything is black, everything's simple with a core focus on just the actual name and mark itself. That's the first step, because I want people to understand we're still Quativa. If we just did a completely different, logo and said, okay, well, I'm expecting you to know what this is, people are gonna be like, I don't get it. So it's doubling down on the work that you've done. And at the point where you go full Monty with everything, the buy-in isn't, you're not going to get buy-in. You have to get buy-in from yourself first. So the first round of everything we've done is just brand stuff. We've done, I don't know if you remember last year, we had the crazy designs and fun stuff with the whole ski thing and everything. But we'd already been established at that point. Right. And so it was okay to kind of do some fun things. And, we'll probably get back to doing some of those things. But right now it's really just, this is who we are. I want you to understand about our technology and our platform more than what we look like.
Cool.
Right. I want you to like the fact that it's clean and it's designed and it looks nice. But at the end of the day, it's really about keeping it simple.
Awesome. That's really, really, really great insight, especially, coming from a company that has been through it. You've been through the transition. You started with something and now you're really settling in, like you said, on your core values, what you want people to know, feel, and see when they hear and see and meet Quativa.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So cool. If you were to have somebody, I'm sure there was a time in your life where you're just starting out marketing or you're just starting to gain these tools. If there's, listeners out there that are building businesses and wanting to be able to create and portray their core values with their business, but maybe don't have yet, investors or backing to go out to agencies and be like, hey, go test this in the market. In the door-to-door space, what advice would you give them to, how do they attach their core values, what they want to do, as well as resonate with the homeowners or resonate with other recruits? What kind of advice would you give them?
For starters, I would say, don't worry about the visual yet. I'm notoriously for getting stuck on working on the design instead of the meaning.
Yeah.
And
way it looks.
And I get very if I'm working with a designer, or I'll go branch off on my own and just sit and I start working on well, I can make it a little cooler. I can do this or whatever. Yeah. Don't do it. Right. Put your name on something and don't design anything. That's number one. Right. And so when trying to really figure out what your core values are, I go back and say, first of all, I'm an Audible junkie. So just consume as much as you can, read books, learn, ask questions, watch podcasts, find the mentors that are out there, both online and in your personal life. They're going to give you the best feedback about how to do something that you're going to ever get. And then besides just doing it yourself. But in terms of how to build out the core values, I think it's what's important to you as an individual that you want to embody to the rest of your company. So whether you're just, a couple of guys starting out or you're leading an organization, what are the most important things that you believe in and that the other people that are with you believe in? And then how does that translate into a company? And that's what we did. We just updated, and created a new core values. And it means something to all of us, down to our core. So you've got to be at that level. You've got to really feel it in your bones that this is what we stand for. And do that as an individual first. What are your core values as a person? What do you believe in? And then you can start working on, well, I want my business to be about this also. And sometimes those things are going to be different, depending on the type of company that you're starting. I love hearing, the Danny Pessis of the world and the Jake Hesses and these guys talking about, and even Sam talking about, go knock 100 doors, go and just do the work, just go do it, and don't stop and don't quit and don't give up. And you've got to be consistent with doing this because there's a value in there that you have to adopt. And this tenacity and the relentlessness that most of the guys in the door-to-door space have, that is a value. And so if I'm starting a new business, maybe one of the core values for your company is to have a relentless pursuit of progress, right? Not perfection, but progress. And if that is a core value that you have, like, own it, right? Go look. There's so many things. If you just type up, core values for companies, you can actually look up the core values of, Fortune 500 companies to help you and get guidance to do this.
That's beautiful. Because so often I feel like as entrepreneurs in the marketing world, we get so caught up on it has to look and be perfect. But at that point, you don't know what you don't know. And so finding your true core values might come over time, right? And kind of having in the product where like the MVP or minimum viable product, that's exactly what you're saying is like, just get your name out there. Don't even worry about designing it. Go find your core values and then let that kind of construct and design it. So I love that perspective. That's beautiful. When people look at Quativa, so kind of flipping it to you directly, Quativa has been through a lot, and you guys have been very resilient. And I've had a really kind of outsiders but inside look at, and it's amazing to see the resiliency of Quativa as you guys have grown and learned, rebranded, and really got yourself solidified in the market and what you're trying to build and do. When people look at Quativa, when they look at your marketing, when they look at your logo, insignia, all of that, what do you want them to feel?
I'll tell you our core values, which is probably the most important thing for us is the number one core value that we have is have an ownership mindset. Cool. And so, we're talking about like, what do these door-to-door guys have to have? Like, you have to have an ownership mindset, whether you're the owner or whether you're the guy that's out knocking doors, you're the owner of the time you have, of what you're actually doing. And a lot of the pitches that you hear from mindset coaches and leadership coaches to kind of tell these guys how they can actually go do this, you have to have that mentality that you're the owner of your destiny. And that's why I always love that, like, go knock 100 doors and don't stop until you do, no matter what happens. Whether you're knocking until 10 p.m., get out there and do it, because you have to say, well, you know what, if I stop at 50, right? It's not that maybe you haven't had successes with the other 50, but you don't know what's going to happen on that back half of your 50. So go do it. Just keep grinding until you get out there. So for us, having that ownership mentality all the way through is one of the things that when we are looking to attract and retain people and that they're working with us, we want everybody to know we all have this ownership mindset. And that means when we're looking at working with you, we're hoping you have that, because we're gonna see eye to eye on this. Our second core value is a culture of care and respect. And so you talked about resiliency, you talked about some of the things we've gone through in this past year. For us, we respect the people that we work with and that work for us and that are working with us. You have to be able to do that. And so for us to kind of get through difficult times, you have to be able to say, you know what? I understand this may have been hard for you. I want you to understand what we've been through as well. And so that's the other thing. We want people to understand that, like, look, we're people, right? So it's easy to say, we're in it with you, like, so, when you have a bad day, we're having a bad day. And so we look at, that's another thing we want you to understand about us. And then the last core value is have be high performance. And that means just getting out there and just grinding every single day. It's funny, Jess Phillips, our chief sales officer, and I woke up this morning to a message from some doc that he was sharing with me, and it was like 2:14 a.m. And so we're all like this, we're like just constantly. You hear my voice is going because it's just like grinding and working and making sure that we're getting things done, and that's what we want from our partners as well. We want you to know that we're here, that we don't stop because it's 6 p.m. and like the day is over. We understand that that's not the way the door-to-door space works, especially, and that's not the way solar works, especially. And so that's where we are. We're there when you're there. So those are the things that I want people to know about us, is that we really, truly believe these things more than anything else that's out.
Beautiful. I think the thing that stuck out to me the most is it's truly about progress, not perfection. And whether it's marketing, building a business, becoming a better self, it's all about that progress. And I think Quativa has exhibited that to a T, that it's all about that progress, that buy-in, that ownership, but it's progress number one.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're a year and a half in. I mean, we've had some beta before that where we did some testing and stuff. But I mean, like, we're a young company, We got our Series A funding last October, right? So hasn't even been, it's like, where we've gone, where we started, the growth that we had, issues that we faced, partnerships that were great, that weren't great, whatever, like we've navigated through these things and what it's done. And, come by the booth because everyone's going to get to really learn about, and I don't know when this is going to air, so maybe it's after, but reach out to us, because what you'll learn is what we've done with adversity is turn it into, let's learn from this, let's adapt, let's make changes that are going to make our business better for our partners. One of the things that we've talked about, we do these meetings, it's called EOS, Entrepreneurs Operating System. And we meet as an executive team and we go through these things, and we have rocks that we work on, which are like these big things that we work on for a quarter. Underneath that, you have smaller things that each team works on. But one of the things that came up as a company is our goal for existing is to create healthier businesses for our partners. And that's where you'll hear a lot about at the show. You're going to hear a lot about diversification. It's to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that a lot of companies have. And so those are the things that we're going to focus on. And those are the things we want people to understand about us, is that, we're going to come through fighting. Like literally, like I love a fight. All I ever want to do is just like I want to grind it out. Like you want to box me? Let's go. Kind of like, and it's because that's my mentality, is like when there is no, this happened, and so I'm gonna I don't have time to worry about what happened. I need to focus on how do I move from here and do better.
Yeah, awesome. That's so great. Well, Clinton, you are a rock star, and my favorite question of anytime doing podcasts or speaking to people is, if there was one message, like one short message that you could give to anybody that's listening, what is it? What was that message that comes from your heart?
Progress not perfect. I mean, my entire team will hear this all the time, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what it is, whether you're writing something, designing something, shooting something. I truly believe in progress not perfect, because it is this continual striving to be better. That's it. I'm a runner. I literally was just listening to David Goggins' new book. Love it. And it's like, oh man, how can I be better? Like, how can I when you listen to this guy talk about all the things that and the struggles that he's faced to do the accomplishment. And look, I'm not expecting to get out and run an ultra like this guy does, but I'm running and I'm like, if I'm going to go run a 2-mile run and it's like a mile and a half in, I'm like, David Goggins wouldn't stop right now, So progress not perfect is always been one of the things that I believe in most. And I love it. And I would tell this to everybody, like you can always be better and do better, or help other people do better and be better.
Love it. Love it. Clinton Ehrlich, Chief Marketing Officer, Quativa. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.